Well, Gen Z is obviously entering the adult world and they're adapting to adulting. And they are discovering all of these newfangled inventions that used to be called second jobs, and they're calling it Polywork. They have to come up with a label for literally everything that has just been a normal fixture of living as an adult functioning in society.
Yep.
So this says Gen Z and millennials rebrand side hustles as Polywork amid struggle to make ends meet. They're only monogamous to the money. And this is because of inflation. They're having to turn to having second jobs or side hustles, you know, crypto, drop shipping, OnlyFans.
I still don't understand
all of
dropshipping.
it. I don't either. I wouldn't pretend to. Welcome to the age of polyworking, led by Gen Z in response to the rising U.S. inflation and living costs.
It's what's weird to me is like we live in a time now where you can have a job, and it's never been easier to have like a flexible second job. Like if you wanna drive for Uber Eats, if you want to drive, like a lot of people that I know did it just so they could buy a nicer car. Like this is so they could like I use Uber to pay for my car payment and just, you know, they have the time. They don't just like sitting around at home. They get done with work. They're not going out with friends. They're like, I can go work when I want to, and it's a benefit to me. Now, making a living off of it is a different story entirely. It's hard on the car. It's hard, you know, all these things. But like now, like you can find jobs through apps that are like reasonable ways to make an extra amount of money, rather than having like a place where it's like, okay, you've got your regular 9-to-5 job, but then you got that job that you go to for 4 hours at the end of the night. You work from 9 to 5 and then you work from 7 to 11 or something like that. Like that used to happen a lot. I used to work at a Target, and a lot of the people that worked there, the second, you know, like second shift or whatever, were coming from their second job.
I always had 2 jobs my whole life until I was about 26. My whole life.
And that was like normal to you.
Totally normal to me.
But like the difference here is that Gen Z thinks having a second job should not be the normal expectation to make ends meet.
I did see a thing today of Matt Walsh saying like, it's crazy to me that people think that working just 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week is a lot. And I'm like, oh man, like I get what he's saying. Like I work more than 40 hours a week, and I get what he's saying. Like most people, like a lot of people do, but I was just like, it's the way he phrased it that was just really, really funny, because they were talking about this lady saying like, I pay $1,600 a month for rent. And people are saying like, the question isn't like, is 40 hours a week a lot? The question is, why is rent costing $1,600?
The cost of living is a crisis, and it's not good for young people who are trying to get on their feet. Like, I totally agree. It's just that they're so annoying about it, and they have to create all of these buzz terms for things that were considered normal for a lot of millennials and Gen Xers. This is a TikTok caption. When you read that 45% of people between 18 and 29 still live with their parents because young people today are facing more difficulties in today's economy, including being priced out of the housing market, then you read the woman from, what is this? The View's response? Oh, Whoopi Goldberg. Boo-hoo, and get a job. But you wonder if she knew that 47% of Gen Zers held 3 or more jobs, indicating a staggering 93% of this generation has juggled multiple roles.
2-job crew, somebody says in the chat.
That's
also,
$20.
Moses Def.
We have $20 from Disco Jensen. Gen Z would be much better off if they got a trade instead of banking on a loan bailout, useless communications, criminal justice, or liberal arts degrees.
Learn a trade.
You're not the first person to say it. It's true, but this is a lesson that will only be learned in time.
Also, like, how many hours are these 3-job-a-week people working? It's not like they're working a 40-hour work week and then another 20 and another 20-hour work week. Like, let's be real.
What became really common, remember, like after when Obama got in office and we had the decline in the economic decline, is like people were cutting, you know, because of health insurance, you weren't getting 40 hours at your job anymore. You were getting 22, just under 32, just under what would give you health insurance and all of these things. So they have multiple jobs because 32 here.
Thank you.
Also, like they were pointing out, like somebody in the comments Matt Walsh video is being like, you weren't designed to work 8 hours a day. You were designed to work more. Basically saying like, imagine being a hunter or gatherer and working 8 hours a day, sleeping 8 hours, and then saying like, I'm tired. I want to rest.
That's why everybody's fat.
But these are very difficult things. Like,
on the contrary,
you're not going to win the public sentiment with these arguments. I'm just saying. Like, even
Who cleans all this money up?
We do.
Oh my God.
On the contrary, though, I think that actually being a hunter-gatherer in an ancient tribal society would be a more fulfilling life than going to an office job from 9 to 5.
They have a show. They have a show like that. I'm just going to say this. It's a reality show, and it's based in Wales, and they get this family, and a bunch of families, and they live on an island with no regular, they have to live like 1,800 people. Yeah. Do it all, and the women even say like it's physically harder, but it's 100% more rewarding. And all but this one very arrogant couple wanted to stay. It's like really good.
So it's not Survivor; it's different.
No, it's like they have to like fish and like make their own food, and
that's cool.
It was really awesome actually, but it's like 1900, 1800 something. But you got to watch it.
I do always find it a bit odd when I see people who they rail against the idea that you have to work to live. That they feel like these things should be afforded to you, that you should not have to worry. And I guess I'm just of the opinion that I miss the days when we said life wasn't fair. Life's not fair. And I know that's a simplistic worldview, but the quicker you understand that that is the truth, that the world is not here to bend to your whims, that you'll be a lot happier because it allows you to accept that, say, okay, that is true. Now what?
Nobody owes you anything. Yeah. That's the attitude that everybody needs to have. Nobody owes you anything.
The use of the prefix poly for Polywork is a cheeky nod to the rising popularity of polyamory.
Yuck.
Womp womp.
Which never works out well for anyone.
Wait, does that mean if I get a second job, I can be LGBTQIA plus and like get all the benefits that come from that? I can.
Side hustles mean that you're actually part of the LGBTQ movement. So also, I recently saw a video of some kid who looked to be about 14 years old working at a Burger King.
I thought that was sweet.
It went viral on Twitter. I cannot for the life of me find it now. I can't find it on the internet.
It was like scrubbed from the internet.
It was like scrubbed from the internet, essentially. The person who was recording him was behind, on the other side of the counter, and they were like, when I was your age, burgers cost, what did they say?
79 cents or 89 cents.
79 cents. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't give it to you for cheaper. But, he was a cute kid. He had braces. He's probably in high school, and this is his first job at Burger King. And immediately the response from tankies on Twitter was that this is the normalization of child labor coming back in the United States. Like, child labor is making a comeback.
They yearn
is a horrible
for the
thing.
This
is
the mines is
a travesty.
How old were you when you had your first job, Mary?
I was actually 20.
How old were you?
16, 15.
I was volunteering at a hospital as a candy striper when I was 12, and my first real paid job was 14.
Okay, if volunteering counts, then it was definitely earlier than that.
But my first paid job, I was a bus girl at a restaurant making salads and back and doing dishes, was 14, and I folded pizza boxes at a different one.
Yeah, I pushed carts at a grocery store.
But my parents encouraged that, and they didn't buy me stuff. Like, they bought me stuff at Christmas, but they didn't buy me stuff throughout the year. I had to buy anything I wanted, so I worked.
I thought that if we get children to work in the food service industry, then they're going to get emotionally abused by customers a lot less because they're cute.
True.
No.
More forget.
People would be nicer.
That video itself, the Burger King video, the lady's like, when I was your age, burgers were 69 cents. And the kid's like, okay.
I felt that when I watched that though, I felt that that person knew him and was just saying that and taking it because they were proud of him, but they wanted to seem like when I was your age. That's the vibe I got from that.
I also saw someone post a picture of a Burger King where another kid was working, and there's a sign on the door that says, hey parents, do you have a 14 or 15-year-old? Do they need a job? We'll hire them. Ask for an application. And all of these people with the hammer and sickle in their username on Twitter were posting this, and they were acting so horrified at the idea of a 15-year-old working at a fast food restaurant.
But because
it's not the end of the world.
I guess they can't, because they don't want to work. They can't imagine somebody voluntarily wanting to work. The argument
the
they
kid
always give is
money for video games or something.
The argument that they are making in these threads was like they're saying a kid shouldn't be forced to work to help feed his to help take care of his family.
But that's not what they're doing.
Exactly.
How do you know that that's the reason?
They're coming up with a counter argument to something that they don't actually know why this kid is working.
The kid wants a $120 pair of Jordans, and his parents won't buy it for them, so he's got to go save and work at Burger King.
Just remember, the government gets involved. Remember when the poor kids they go out there, they start the lemonade stand, and the evil state government comes and shuts them down because they don't have a business license because the government is evil.
I think that there's just this similar push against kids being in sports as well. Like, they can't have jobs, they can't be in sports.
They're banning tackle football in California for for kids under I believe like 12 and under or something.
Oh, my son plays tackle at 7.
Anything that might instill like values of responsibility or teamwork or anything like that in children, that's what they're against. It's like that's going to be a tough sell. I saw another, like, I looked this up on Reddit because that's where all these tankies are, talking amongst themselves. A Wendy's franchisee a few days ago got fined for child labor violations involving over 760 children. And another one. A year ago, child labor laws in Arkansas were fully repealed.
Let they yearn for the mines. We all know it. The kids want to work.
And here was their basic problem with the idea of a 15-year-old working at, a Burger King or whatever. They can't vote, but they can pay taxes. So this is wrong.
Remember, though,
they're getting taxed without representation.
Yes. Also remember, that also means that Girl Scout cookies are free child labor. Because those girls aren't paid to sell those cookies, and that's a scam.
It's an MLM, really. If you think about it.
Don't send your kids to the Girl Scouts anyway. But
I don't buy the Girl Scout cookies anyway because they send money to Planned Parenthood.
Correct.
But few people know this. But yeah, I guess that's just their argument for letting 15-year-olds vote, which is also a horrible idea.
Somebody says, what Wendy's has 700 employees?
Well, I guess it would be over the span of like many years.
Okay. It's just like each of the kids just jammed together like it's a little bread line of them pushing the things down.
But I love this headline. Twitter pinko angered at the sight of a happy kid earning a little extra cash working at Burger King.
My daughter said like 2 years ago, like, when I grow up, I want to be a cashier. And she meant it. Like, she thought that was a cool job. Like, she wanted to go
A lot of kids did. They
take
play that
money.
way.
So, like, if they want to do it and earn some money, let them.
Mm-hmm. Kids play pretend as cashiers a lot. It's like something that they really aspire to for some reason.
Yeah, until some evil Karen comes in and yells at you for something, then the romance is pulled off of that job real quickly. But also you learn to. I always say that everybody should have to work at least some type of retail or customer service for 6 months so you can understand how people really are in a lot of ways. And one of the things I like about that is it's kind of good to build up your resolve. One, because it will either teach you to not give a crap, or it will show you just how deep is your optimism for the human condition.
It'll also teach you how to interact better.
Yes.
I was a bartender for 11 years, and it helped a lot.
Make friends.
Like,
become more socially adjusted. Gen Z has a problem with that.
True.
They could use more of that, but maybe that's because they're working jobs like Uber Eats, where they just drop it off and then they don't actually interact with anyone,
or they're not working at all.
Yeah,
you can see the dust in the air after they run away.
Is there any data that says that Gen Z is working less than previous generations? I would imagine that can't be true. How can they both have a housing crisis that they can't afford their apartments and not be working?
Well, the college-aged Gen Z, they're probably working less because they're full-time students. But other than that, I would guess they're working.
Big one here from the Manic Mustache. For $50, he says, "Hey, gang, late as always and apropos to child labor, I had 2 jobs by 13 and was raising 3 kids, paying a mortgage, and had fought in 2 world wars. Kids be soft these days, and with all these beautiful women in studio, Brett, who is watching the bread?"
You
bread like this, like the money bread, or actual bread?
I'm sorry, you had 3 kids and a mortgage at 13?
He already had 3 kids.
That's impressive, man.
No. Yeah, 2 jobs. Yeah, 2 jobs and 3 kids.
Hope the kids are okay.
And he fought in 2 world wars.
And 2 world wars.
And he knows how to super chat, even though that would make him like a bazillion years old. That's impressive.
That's incredible.
That is the most impressive part of that, is that he also knows how to super chat. And also, like, how do you even have the money to super chat when you had 2 kids at 13?
Yeah.
You must have had plenty since then.
He has a hard work ethic. Yeah. Disco Jensen
And he walked
said,
uphill to school both ways.
another thing the current gen is lacking is motivation and work ethic. The thought that because they have a degree leads them to believe that they get to skip entry-level pay. Everyone starts at the bottom.
Well, also, like they are sick of the fact that when they get hired to these jobs, they apply and they're like, "We need you with 5 years experience." And stuff. Now we're seeing that's kind of going away. I saw a lot of people saying that a lot of jobs are removing the college requirement.
Yeah.
At their companies.
As they should, because it says nothing about your competence.
Yeah.
And nothing about your intelligence.
Yeah. And but this is also like, this is why I tend to fall a lot of times on the other side of the argument on certain things where some people are like, we need to get the old guys out of there. We need the young people in there. I'm like, the old guys and the young guys are just as bad, just in different ways.
I agree with that.
Fair enough. I just think it's ironic that all of these leftists are like, they don't have the ability to consent to having a job, but they should be able to cut their dicks off. Like,
yes, that's what they're saying.
I'm kind of seeing a contradiction there.
I mean, I see this a lot of the things. It's like when people make these arguments where it's like, this group says this, also they say this. No, what you're doing is you're taking one example of a person saying one thing, another example of a person saying the other thing who just generally identifies in the same political sphere, whatever, and you're acting as if they both said the same thing. Now, the sentiment may be the same or true, but it's an invalid argument to make. Unless you have a thing, it's kind of like that page Defiant L's, which I always love, which is it shows people directly contradicting themselves. Problem is, politically minded people don't care if they're contradicting themselves because they believe that there is no truth but power. So it doesn't actually solve anything because they gladly lie and they gladly contradict themselves. They don't care.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.